Parents of Reddit, what is the creepiest thing your kids has ever said or done? I overheard a girl tell her mom, her eyes are pretty, referring to the new daycare employee. I wanna wear them on my charm bracelet. My cousin who is 3, he keeps referring to any woman he sees as tasty. We would be watching a movie and he would point out a woman and says, she is tasty. What he means is that she is beautiful. I can't even walk with him outside because I am afraid he might point out to some woman and say that she is tasty. My husband is a farmer. One night he asked me to pick him up after working ground and it was pretty late, around 10 o'clock. So I loaded our 2 girls up, then 4 and 2, and headed to the field. We get to the field and C is finishing up his last round, so we had to wait for a minute. I rolled the windows down in the van and shut the engine off. After a few minutes my 2-year-old says, "Mommy, who dat man outside?" I said, "I don't see a man, is your Ken doll on the floor?" My 4-year-old then piped up, "He's right outside your door and staring at you. He's scary. He has blood on his face." That's when I turned the key, rolled the windows up, locked the doors and called my husband and told him to hurry the hell up because the girls are terrified and there's apparently a scary man outside my door that I can't see, but both girls are describing him and what he's doing. Thankfully C was done and heading up to the van at that moment and we left. My girls are now 5 and 7 and they both still remember that man and refuse to go to that particular field. I have to ask my mill to watch them when I need to pick their daddy up from there. Both of my children, when they were babies, would point to empty corners of the room as if someone were there. I was the child. Mum was dreaming that my uncle was in the garden and it was snowing, so she was desperately trying to get him to come inside. At 4 years of age I ran into her bedroom, woke her up and said, "Mum, Mum, Mum. You've got to get Uncle Paul out of the garden, it's snowing." She freaked out. My 3-year-old while eating dinner told me there was a man on the balcony with red eyes with his mouth gaping open, like a scream face. We live on the 3rd floor and the only access to that balcony is from inside. Needless to say I didn't turn around. He said so much weird things. We live in a really old apartment, and I don't believe in ghosts, but he creeps me out. Edit. He's also mentioned a little boy upside down scratching at the ceiling, just casually like it was nothing. On the meantime I am shitting myself. Posted this before me 4-year-old son had a habit of announcing when he had to use the bathroom. He would say, "I gotta go potty." One time he makes his business known and heads off toward the bathroom. He returns seconds later and says, "There's already someone in the bathroom." Now I do know for a fact that it's just the 2 of us home, so the hair stands up on my neck. I ask him, "What do you mean?" He repeats, "There's already someone in the bathroom." Now I'm thinking, is it someone I see dead people, or someone in a hockey goalie mask? So I grab the biggest knife from my knife block and tell him to stay here. I walk to the bathroom, take a wide angle to see in, nobody. Slowly and quietly walk toward the shower and pull back the curtain, nothing. By now my son has walked around the corner and I ask him, "Where did you see the person?" He points to an unflushed toilet and says, "See, someone's already here." His big brother didn't flush the toilet. Not a parent, but a sister. A couple years ago, me and my sister, me 11 and her 14, were watching my 4-year-old sister. She was always a little weird and said weird stuff, but nothing too bad. Anyway, me and my sister were watching a movie and fell asleep by accident, and when my mom got home she started screaming and shaking us to wake up. When we were asleep my mom must have called checking in on us, and my little sister picked up and said, "I had to do it, mommy had to kill them. I cut Sissy's throat." And hung up. It still scares me sometimes. Back in the mid-60s, my cousin's family lived out near the ocean on the coast of Japan. It wasn't so built up back then, and they lived near a rocky cliff where a small lighthouse sat. My cousin was maybe 8 at the time, but he was sort of obsessed with turtles. He had a pet turtle with an odd name, and he took very good care of it, to the point where he didn't have much of a social life. It was a wild turtle he'd caught, and since he was missing out on socializing anyway, his parents eventually convinced him to let the turtle go. He let it go in a small pond nearby, but he'd go out to talk to it every day. Anyway, one day there was a big downburst coming up from the sea. It came out of nowhere and was absolutely ferocious. My cousin was caught out in the open and ran to the lighthouse for protection. The storm passed in a few minutes, but the sea was so ferocious that the lighthouse crumbled under the waves. My cousin was found slightly dazed but unharmed, sitting a few hundred yards from the rubble. Anyway, my cousin doesn't remember this today, but his parents told me that he wouldn't shut up about how his turtle had turned giant, come out of the sea, and caught him before flying away. His English wasn't the best, but he just kept repeating the same thing, Gamera is friend to children. Not a parent but a good story about my sister. She was about 3 years old and we were getting ready to go to our uncle's house for dinner. She was being really fussy and didn't want to get changed, so my dad asks her, "Don't you want to go to Uncle Dan's house?" She then responded saying, "No, I don't like the man in the ceiling." Though it was an odd thing to say but didn't give much thought. A few years later we were helping my uncle sell the house and it came out that someone had killed themselves in the attic back in the 90s. I looked at the video monitor to make sure my 2-year-old daughter was finally asleep since she hadn't made noise in a while. I see her standing up in her crib. She slowly bends over to the side, cocks her head towards her knee, and says, "Hi." How did she know I was looking at the monitor at that exact moment? Plus, the way she was bent at the waist looked humanly impossible, and the night vision function made her eyes look so creepy. My son woke me up at about 2 a.m., in fear. We live in a 1-story house, so his window is facing towards the street on a ground level. He told me there was a man outside looking back at him. I follow him back, and sure enough, our neighbor was looking into the window. I asked him what he was doing, he didn't answer. I called my husband to come and when he got there, he walked away. The next day I asked my neighbor if he recalled the events of that night and he said no, probably sleepwalking. Scared the shit out of me. Edit, to clear things up, no cops were called, he was probably sleepwalking, probably no intent to hurt. My husband did go over there and smack him. They moved out a few weeks later. I was napping on the couch and my then 3-year-old was standing there with a toy, felt saw. I woke up to him saying, "I'm going to saw mommy's head off." Nope. My 4-year-old talks about death a lot. Dead pets, dead family members, weird but whatever. The one that freaks me out is when she mentions my dead grandma that got shot. We never talk about my husband's mom, who took her own life when my husband was a teenager. I'm a skeptic when it comes to the supernatural, but it makes me wonder. My oldest daughter usually stands beside my bed at night. When she was 5, she already had long black hair. The creepy part was that she just stood there, not even tried to wake me or my wife up. She were just standing there for 2 or 3 hours watching us. When she finished looking at us, she'd go back to her bed and sleep like nothing happens. That was a really creepy time of my life. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night cause of an urgent need to pee and looking directly at her eyes. Obligatory, not a parent, but I feel like this is fitting. I had to babysit a herd of kids on the ranch I lived at. I think it's a herd. I mean, 7 kids is a lot. Their ages ranged from 7 to 12, so it was a treat as an 18-year-old to try and keep a semblance of order. Thankfully half of them weren't allowed to watch TV normally, so I turned on SpongeBob and let them zone out in watching it. By the by, that's creepy enough in its own right to me. Anyway, before I get to the creepy part, one need to explain the layout of the house. It's very long house. If you were looking straight at its center, it had a fenced-in courtyard with a huge living room bordering it. This living room had floor-to-ceiling glass both sides, so you could see through the backyard, which was a casually sloping grass lawn. On the left side was the kitchen, garage, a huge dining room, and a bathroom for the pool goers. Note, the living room and kitchen side of things are level with the ground. The bedrooms are all on the right side. There are 4, with about 7 beds between them, another bathroom, and all the windows are elevated. The windows basically start midway up the wall. There is also another restroom tucked in the hallway. There's no way to exit from the bedrooms, but if there were you would need stairs or a ramp, as on that side the ground drops a good 5 to 6 feet minimum. Well, all the adults are out exploring the ranch. TBH, I suspect the father of half the kids more wanted to go have kinky forest fun times with his new GF, and I'm stuck with the herd. They all finally chill out and I excuse myself to use the bathroom. I cruise through the kitchen, through the dining room, to the outside pool bathroom, do my thing, and come back to the living room the way I came. As I walk in, all the kids are fucking stoked. Like, they went from TV gremlins to just fucking amazed and excited. They are all standing near the entrance to the bedroom hallway, pointing out the window going, "I just saw him." They all have their backs to me, so I kind of startled them when I asked them what they saw. They whirled around, dumbstruck, and asked me how the heck I did that. They all swear they saw me, or rather they saw someone who looked like me and wearing a white t-shirt like me, walk right by that bedroom window from the outside. I raised an eyebrow, then had to think about the following: we are alone on a huge ranch. The kids' families are wealthy as fuck. There is a potential of either a poacher, a drug grower, or a random person of questionable means having found this house. I tell the kids to lock themselves in the closest bedroom and not to come out until I say so. I pop open the gun locker and grab the closest shotgun. Ranch rules for the win. We use them for snakes that are in hard to get to places, and I dart out the front to cut off whoever the heck is walking around the house. Well, no one is there. Driveway is empty, no tracks in the dirt beyond car tracks. I can see far and wide thanks to freshly mowed fields. I walked back to the bedroom window to see if I could find anything hinting at someone having been there, and nothing. That's when it dawned on me, I'm standing under the very same window they saw someone walking in front of. I'm 5 feet 9 inches, and this window is easily 6.5 feet off the ground. They claimed they saw my t-shirt and torso clearly, though the window. Whatever they saw had to have been tall as fuck. That's when my blood ran cold and proceeded to lock down the whole place, turn on movies for the kids, and nurse that gun until the parents came home. Naturally, the parents thought I was overreacting. But to be honest, in the middle of nowhere? I'm not taking any chances. Not a parent, but I was once babysitting my niece, who was around 3 at the time, and she needed a bath before bed. I noticed as she was splashing around and playing with her toys she kept looking just over my shoulder into the corner of the bathroom and giggling. I looked over my shoulder and of course nothing was there. As I turned back to her she had a completely blank look on her face, stared directly into my eyes and said, "Don't be scared," then started giggling uncontrollably. Safe to say I snatched her out of the bath real quick and got her ready for bed. About half an hour after leaving her in the bedroom I heard her laughing and talking. I went in to check if she was sleep talking, but she was sat upright, cross-legged in the middle of the bed as if she was chatting to someone sat opposite her. I asked her what she was doing and she said, "I'm talking to the man." "What man?" I asked, to which she replied, "The ghost, Steven." I tucked her back into bed and she drifted off pretty quickly. I never asked her about it the next day, but she's 6 now and doesn't remember a thing about it. I'm pretty sure I fell asleep with the light on that night. I don't know where she would have learned about ghosts at that age either, but Mum said me and my sisters used to do it as kids too. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.